Let's bring in our security and defence editor, Deborah Haynes, who's in Kiev. Lots to get to on Ukraine in just a moment. But Deborah, as we all sort of sit here and wonder what could or couldn't be in this deal, I guess one idea that's coming up is whether or not there will be small, very small pockets of sovereignty for the US in Greenland so that they would be able to have more military bases there than they currently have, or at least more protections around those military bases than they currently have. But a lot is still up in the air.
It is, and you can only imagine the very careful, probably fairly frantic diplomacy that's been going on behind the scenes with British and other European officials trying to work out a way to come up with a solution that will sound good when Donald Trump says it, but actually really doesn't change that much in terms of the reality on the ground. The fact is that all NATO allies, the UK, Denmark, people on Greenland as well included, want to ensure the security of that territory. The fact that sovereignty, overall sovereignty, is not really being spoken about really points to the fudge. And there is reports today, aren't there, about the idea that the sort of model that the UK has adopted on Cyprus, where we have sovereign bases like the base in Akrotiri, that is actually sovereign territory. I remember being on the base a few years ago where a boat carrying migrants rocked up on the shore, and it was a big problem not for Cyprus, it was a problem for the UK, because that territory where the UK military has its presence is British territory. So clearly that idea may be appealing to Donald Trump as a bit of an off-ramp, that he can have pockets of military bases that are sovereign US territory, but the overall country and territory of Greenland remains in its status as it is. But of course, that's something that's going to have to be agreed by the Greenlanders and of course, the Kingdom of Denmark. Mark Rutte, the head of NATO, will be hoping that he can manage to navigate a path that changes nothing in reality, but changes everything in the way that Donald Trump portrays how he views Greenland and his ability to ensure the protection of the US with this Golden Dome air defence, including by using that territory.
And Deborah, you're obviously in Kyiv. We've heard from the States this morning saying that they're optimistic when it comes to a peace deal. There's only one outstanding issue left, that they're confident they can get it done. How should we take that? What's your reading of that?
Well, I was talking to a Ukrainian source yesterday who was saying to me that, obviously Ukraine had been hoping that Russia's war here in this country would be absolutely at the centre of everybody's minds in Davos, and they've been feeling rather sidelined over this huge row and rift about Greenland. But clearly now that's kind of been, I guess, solved for now, and so the focus will, like you say, shift to Ukraine. Vladimir Zelensky is on his way to Davos. That was in doubt up until really today, when they've actually confirmed that he's travelling, but at least until yesterday, he's going to be meeting with Donald Trump. The plan had been for this prosperity package, which is a $800 billion package of measures for post-war Ukraine to lock in US and European investment in reconstruction here, and then also a bilateral deal between the US and Ukraine that would include security guarantees that they may be signed. But more than that, of course, is the hope that Donald Trump has of a peace deal. You can hear his envoy, Steve Witkoff, who's en route to Moscow now to speak to Vladimir Putin, give a sense of where he thinks we're at.
We're at the end now, and I actually am optimistic. I spent the evening with David last night, with General Budanov, who's now Vice President Budanov, and Rustem. They've been amazing, by the way. To the Ukrainian people here, you have an amazing negotiating team. We spent a lot of time together. I don't know how much, but it could be 100 hours together since Geneva. It's literally that comprehensive. And I think we've got it down to one issue, and we have discussed iterations of that issue, and that means it's solvable.
I mean, he didn't say what the issue is, but most likely it's about territory, isn't it? The Donbass region that Russia wants to claim as its own, and that Ukraine, understandably, wants to continue having it in its country. And this Ukrainian source I was speaking to was saying to me that, well, yes, the US and the Ukrainians have been really working hard and have come up with an iteration of a deal that they agree on. That is now what's being put to Vladimir Putin. And so what Putin says about the deal will be crucial, and until there is an agreement, doesn't matter how many percentages close you are to that agreement, there is no deal.